In the United States, we have firearm company manufacturers that worked in partnerships like Smith & Wesson, or later Sturm and Ruger. Across the Atlantic, back into the old part of the world in Germany, there's one duo that stands out, Heckler and Koch, makers of some of the most iconic firearms, either for law enforcement, military, even civilian and sports. How much do we really know about these manufacturers? One thing we do know, they live up to the standard of what their motto is, and that is no compromise. And they've proved it time and time again. Let's get into it. With the fall of Nazi Germany and the following Allied occupation of Germany, Oberndorf came under French control, and the entire Waffenfabrik Mauser AG factory was dismantled by the French while they were occupying the land. All factory records were destroyed by the local French army under the command, in 1948, three former Mauser engineers, Edmund Heckler, Theodor Koch, and Alex Seidel, saved what they could from the factory and used what they salvaged. They would start out using this factory and the machine shop in it to manufacture tools, and this became the known engineering office and headquarters for Heckler & Co., the original name. On December 28th of 1949, the engineering office of Heckler & Co. changed its name and was registered officially as Heckler & Koch, privately owned. Let's go back before all of this and let's get a little bit of information and see who all three of these gentlemen were.
Edmund Heckler was born on February 2nd, 1906. Born in Tuttlingen, Germany, after completing his apprenticeship at the Mauser Company in the city of Oberndorf. He attended Württemberg State Higher Mechanical Engineering School in Esslingen from 1925. He was employed by Hugo Schneider at a metal processing armaments company with approximately 50,000 employees. Heckler, who initially worked as a senior engineer, soon became one of the company's authorized officers and was given the task of setting up branch plants in Leipzig, Berlin, Tauscha, and Altenburg. He later worked in three latter plants during World War II. He had actually joined the Nazi Party to advance his career, which is some controversy of his past. Unfortunately, at this time, German industry was deeply involved in the crimes of the Third Reich, particularly with the use of forced labor of Jewish people, oppositions, and prisoners of war. Several companies have commissioned studies on the issue, and so far, HK has been an exception due to being founded in 1949. Theodor Koch, born on the 13th of May, 1905. He's a German engineer, investor, and weapons manufacturer. Born in Zuffenhausen, Germany, as a young man, Koch apprenticed as a precision mechanic. After completing his apprenticeship, he attended an engineering school in Esslingen. In 1924, he started work for Mauser in an arms factory in Oberndorf as an engineer and stayed with them until 1945, when the French army destroyed the factory, since it was responsible for manufacturing 7,000 firearms to the German army. During World War II, Koch also signed up to become a Fördermitglied financer of the SS. He was described as a non-engaged National Socialist by historian Stephanie von Zerdikow, as his political role in the party was minimal, and he primarily just supported the Nazis through finance. After the fall of Germany, he continued to salvage the Mauser factory with Edmund Heckler
and Alex Seidel.
Alexius Wilhelm Seidel was born July 4th, 1909. He was the son of Paul Seidel, Josephine Bantel. He lived in Werkenschung, an apartment above a factory grounds at the Mauser AG, where his father was the Obermeister. Seidel apprenticed at Mauser AG as a mechanic. He was Giselle, which is an associate, as Mauser from 1927 to 28. He attended school in Esslingen, and in 1932 returned to Mauser as an engineer. He worked in the Entwicklungs- und Konstruktion development and design department. Seidel loved Mauser's HSC pistol, which was the precursor to HK's first ever handgun, the HK-4. Not very much more is known about Seidel, however, he was an active member in the German Nationalist Social Workers' Party, or the Nazis. And although Seidel was one of the founders of HK, unfortunately his name never made it to the company title. The fall of Hitler's Third Reich and World War II coming to an end, restructure in Germany was at its worst point, with what was salvageable from the Mauser factory in Overim and the dismissal of their war crimes. Heckler, Koch, and Seidel began to rebuild under Heckler Co., manufacturing tools from the old equipment from the original factory. They began to profit with the rebuild of Germany, with all the new contracts, and the beginning of the Cold War with the Soviet Union and the Iron Curtain. They were able to secure contracts with the government manufacturing firearms due to the Soviet threat on the Eastern Front. This would benefit them greatly, as there was many torn-up companies at the time. And in 1949, changing the name from Heckler & Co. to Heckler & Koch, which name remains the same today. The company was moving in a good direction, and in 1956, Heckler & Koch responded to the West German government's tender for a new infantry rifle, Gunfather, with the proposal of the G3 battle rifle. This was based on the Spanish CETME Model 58 rifle and developed in cooperation with them. The German government awarded Heckler & Koch the tender, and in 1959 declared the G3 the standard rifle of the Gunfather. Later in 1961, Heckler & Koch developed the 7.62-51 HK-21 general-purpose machine gun based on this same model. The success was so big that multiple governments adopted the same rifle for their standard military rifle at the time. It was cheap to manufacture, had plastic telescoping stock, shot the 7.62-51, which would initially be adopted as NATO's cartridge, interchangeable with the American version of .308, although not recommended to do so. With the success in production of the Heckler & Koch G3 battle rifle, production took off. In 1959, they started manufacturing in mass quantities. Unfortunately, in 1960, Heckler had passed away, and the company continued to move on with innovation, newer firearms, especially in the defense industries. HK and the progressive designs of the more smooth, sleek, using more synthetic materials, starting to phase out using wood for stocks, grips, etc. and so forth. Also trying to innovate new market machine pistols. One of the greatest machine pistols of all time began development in 1955. After 4 years in development, in 1964 and 1966, the HK-54 was adopted into the Bundesgrund by the Bundeswehr Special Forces in Germany. Originally called the MP-64 until 1966, when it was redesignated and commissioned as the MP-5A1. The primary version of the MP-5 family had a selective fire-delayed blowback-operated system, chambered in 9x19 mm parabellum or NATO, fired from a closed bolt in a forward position, had fixed free-floating cold hammer-forged barrel, 6 right-hand grooves with a 1-inch 250mm rifling twist rate, and pressed pinned into the receiver. The MP5 has a hammer-firing mechanism. The trigger group is housed inside an interchangeable polymer trigger module, integrated pistol grip, and equipped with a 3-position fire mode selector that serves as the manual safety toggle. For HK trigger group standards, most MP5 variants have the option of SEF or Navy. In 1974, Heckler & Koch diversified into 2 more areas, HK Defense and Law Enforcement Technology, and HK Hunting and Sports Firearms. Since then, HK has designed and manufactured more than 100 different types of firearms and devices for the world's militaries and law enforcement organizations, as well as sports shooters and hunters. In 1990, Heckler & Koch completed 2 decades of development of their revolutionary caseless weapon system and produced the first prototypes of the G11 rifle. The company also produced prototypes of the G41 assault rifle intended for the Bundeswehr. Due to the international political climate at the time, in the Eastern and Western Germany uniting and defense budget cuts, the company was unable to secure funded contracts from the German government to support production of either weapon systems and became financially vulnerable. The next year, Heckler & Koch was sold to British Aerospace Royal Ordnance Division. Shortly thereafter, in 1976, Theodor Koch had passed away. In 1987, Seidel, the last remaining member, had passed away. During 1994 and 1995, the German government awarded Heckler & Koch contracts for producing an updated standard assault rifle and updated standard sidearm for the Bundeswehr. Heckler & Koch developed and produced the Project HK-50, a lightweight carbon fiber assault rifle, which became the G-36 assault rifle. In addition, Heckler & Koch produced the P-8 pistol, derived from its USP handguns produced in 1989. The USP was adopted as the standard sidearm of the Bundeswehr in 1994, and the G-36 was adopted in their standard issue rifle in 1995. As a result of the mergers between British Aerospace, Macaroni Electronic Systems, Bay Systems, they refurbished the British Army's SA-80 rifles, which had been manufactured by Royal Ordnance. This contract installed a modification program to the SA-80 series of rifles to address a number of reliability issues and continues today to be in production. HK is still manufacturing and producing firearms for multiple government military organizations around the world today, as well as hunting and sporting rifles as well. But those are all for another chapter.